Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome in. This is Fantasy Sports Today. Call it FST. And of course, at SportsGrid TV. Those are the social media platform addresses you keep us with you everywhere you go. My name's Matt Stryker, but his name is Joe Pisapia, and he's the reason we're all here. He's brought us the Black Book series, especially when it applies to fantasy football, changing the way we look at valuing players, changing the way we just look at the news coming out, changing the way we dominate our fantasy football drafts. Joe Pisapia, there is NFL news that I'd like to pick your brain upon. I'm going to let you run with it and pick out the things that are most important to you. There's some news coming out of Dallas, news coming out of Las Vegas, Baltimore. Where do you want to start?
Well, look, I think we have to start with Dallas, and we have to start with something on the offensive line. And I know that's not super sexy to everybody who plays fantasy sports, but something to really pay attention to because the Cowboys have lost left tackle Tyron Smith for the season with a knee injury. So that's a big deal because this is already a line that's not quite what it was 4 or 5 years ago. And to lose Smith, who's arguably the best guy on that line, is kind of tough. Now, I know Jerry Jones said, look, it's easier to replace these people this time of year than it is, in week 12. And he's not wrong about that. So a lot of people gave Jerry Jones shade because, well, it's easy to give billionaires shade. It's fun. But he's not wrong. It's kind of hard in season to find replacements to get everybody the amount of reps they need. But so if this was going to happen, better to happen now than in week 10. But at the same time, for fantasy stock, it is going to be a little bit of a downgrade, or should I say a lot of a downgrade. But you have to keep in mind for Ezekiel Elliott especially, that's the one to me this really matters because, yeah, Dak Prescott's going to matter a little bit in terms of pocket protection, sure. But Zeke is at a point in his career where you need the line to open up holes for him. He is not making a ton of moves to get on the outside, bouncing a lot of runs out, stuff like that. So when you're losing that on the offensive line side, it's tough. I'm not saying we're going to drop Zeke all the way out of RB2 or anything drastic like that, but it is just another notch in that belt where we keep saying how much can we tolerate in terms of the negativity and the downside of Ezekiel Elliott, the years, the tread on the tires, the age, the loss of another guy on the offensive line. There's a lot. The presence of Tony Pollard. There's so many things there where you look at Zeke and he's just not nearly as safe, I think, as people want to make him out to be. Also, the Raiders are uncertain about Darren Waller's hamstring injury for week 1. This is a big bump up for Hunter Renfrow, and Devontae Adams is already up through the roof in my book. But Hunter Renfrow is that other guy. I mean, he's that possession wide receiver. He moves the chains. I think when we come to DFS week 1, Hunter Renfrow is going to be one of my favorite guys on DK because it's PPR format. He's going to get looks. Everybody's going to be looking at Adams. Hunter Renfrow is going to get fed the football. That's what you saw last year. That's what you're going to see this year. It's why he had so many passing yards last year, Derek Carr, because Hunter Renfrow, move the chains. Also, the Cowboys' Michael Gallup, wide receiver there with the knee, is going to avoid the PUP list. Now, just because he's avoiding the PUP list doesn't mean week 1 he's going to play and be awesome. He's been running routes. He's been looking good on the field. That's a positive. But I still think that first month of the season, you need to limit your expectations for Michael Gallup. I think that in some leagues, if you're drafting, there's a lot of Cowboy fans. People are going to be maybe too excited about Michael Gallup. But most people, I think, will still be negative enough where you're going to get a discount. And Gallup, I think, is in an interesting spot here. Without Amari Cooper, Jalen Tolbert got drafted, but Gallup's probably going to be that number 2 wide receiver in this offense. Schultz is going to command a lot of targets. So will Pollard. But I think at the end of the day, Michael Gallup is still going to be somebody you can draft. And the fact you're getting him so late is a huge bonus. So that's one of those late picks, too, that I would consider. As we welcome in our radio audience here to Fantasy Sports Today, I'm Joe Pisapia. That's Matt Stryker. And we're talking about the news, including Tyron Smith out for the year and that negativity that it has on Zeke's potential for 2022. We're also talking about Michael Gallup, who's going to be playing, Darren Waller, who might not be playing in week 1, and then Gus Edwards, who has been one of my favorite guys, but he is actually going to start the year on the PUP list. So this is important for the stock of J.K. Dobbins, Matt. J.K. Dobbins is a player 2 years ago. You and I were doing this show together right here, and we remember that run J.K. Dobbins had. To me, this is huge for his value. He can really potentially, forgive the bad pun, run away with this backfield early on if he starts off on fire. What do you think about this Baltimore backfield now that Gus Edwards, you won't see him for the first month?
Well, the PUP list isn't as fun as it sounds. It's physically unable to perform, and actually, all of us are on that list quite a bit as we get older and older. But yeah, I think it gives you clarity to the backfield. And it also is intriguing because a lot of times when you look at your fantasy drafts, people don't look to Baltimore for their backfield. That's not the first place you go. But if you start to look at how the offense may change with some new additions, and you start to look at, again, just the versatility of the quarterback, then you at least have a clearer vision. You don't have to sit and bite your nails like we had to do last year. Is it going to be him? Is it going to be him? Now this kind of clears the way, and I think people like that, especially when you're looking and fishing later in the draft. You're panicking. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're watching that draft clock. You don't have to say to yourself, oh, is he in a timeshare? Oh, is he? No, you know that this is going to work out for you, so at least you can click it. So I think it gives people peace of mind, and I think that that's something that a lot of times people overlook the value in that, Joe.
Yeah, and if people are worried about Mike Davis, I'm going to say to you, what were you watching last year when Mike Davis was trying to run in Atlanta? It was terrible. Come on, Mike Davis, stop. J.K. Dobbins is the guy. Let's not overthink things. And even if Baltimore does progress as an offense, it starts to open things up a little bit more and throw the ball more, there's still going to be a run-first offense. It's still who they are. It's still the identity of the Baltimore Ravens. Stop trying to make fetch happen. Stop trying to overthink things. The Baltimore Ravens are going to run the football. J.K. Dobbins is going to catch a lot of balls? No. Is he going to score a lot of touchdowns and get a lot of carries? Yes. Is that good for fantasy? Yes. Is it good in PPR leagues? Yes. Am I coming back from a break? Yes. NFC East? Yes. When we come back.
Great. You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
The Bostonian versus the book.
They don't kick field goals. So now, like, a stupid number like 32 or something should be used because it ain't a multiple of 3 and all these other things that go into making the numbers. Like,
all right.
But I ain't ever going to kick a field goal, so 35 and a half is not an option or something. Like, you got to move it quicker. People will figure it out. The rhombuses and the parallelograms will figure it out.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Pro Football Doc has found its new home right here with Sports Injury Central. And with that comes our expansion into other sports. Sports Injury Central will give you nonstop exclusive injury analysis from experienced team doctors from all 3 major sports. Doctors with resumes that include teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Texas Rangers, and the LA Chargers. So gain a fantasy DFS and betting edge right now for free at SICScore.com.
Maurice Allen, 2015-2016 European Long Drive Tour champion, 2017 world number 1. Me personally, I keep my game face on me all the time. Especially coming out of the bunker, leaving the range, or even leaving the course. What's your story?
Your heart's racing. The clock's running out. It all comes down to this. We're talking pregame. Pregame. Get locked in with Game Time Decisions. Your hosts, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, will get you ready for game time. Everything you need to know before a game goes off the board, with the bet slips to back it up. Make your best bet with live odds updates, late breaking news, up-to-the-minute injury reports, and real-time analytics from inside the sportsbooks. All the odds, all the action, from sports wagering insiders and industry pros like Donnie Rightside, Cam Lou, Cousin Sal, the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and more. Get the winning edge every weekday afternoon from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 Pacific. It's Game Time Decisions. Only on Sports Grid.
Great.
All right. Fantasy Sports Today, FSP, keeping it going. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia, we've given you so much information. I truly hope that there are people that still sit with a pad and pen, or maybe you're sitting along with your device and just constantly taking notes. Because, I mean, I have 2 pages worth of notes from what Joe's talking about. Joe Pisapia, the author and the mind behind the Fantasy Black Book series. We get to sit down each and every week, and you can take Joe with you wherever you go, at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV, because news is always changing, and it affects the way we're looking ahead at our fantasy football season. Joe, I want to talk about the NFC. All right, last week we talked about the AFC. Let's really dive in. Let's do a broad overlook, and then you pick out a few things for each team that you think are notable. NFC East, NFC North. The floor is yours.
Yeah, it's the challenge, right? There's going to be like 50 players to talk about in 10 minutes. Let's go. We could do this. I know. I believe in us. Let's go. All right. All right. I'm ready. All right. I just want to make sure we're on the right pitch. Okay. So let's start with Dallas, right? Big time offense. Prescott's still going to be Prescott. The offensive line took a hit with Tyron Smith being out for the year. Make no mistake about it. Ezekiel Elliott right now, you're looking at Zeke, and I'm telling you, he's not as safe as you think he is. I'd rather wait, especially in PPR formats, and just take Pollard later. He's going to get catches. He is going to score more touchdowns, you realize. And if he works out of the slot at all and does more things like that, you're going to see him be a much bigger fantasy asset. Plus, if something happens to Zeke, I'm not saying he's going to get all the carries, but certainly his role grows in the offense. So way more upside in that return on investment than where Zeke's currently being drafted. CeeDee Lamb, still wheels up for him. I know we wanted it to be huge last year. It was good. It wasn't as great as it could have been. No Amari Cooper. That certainly works in CeeDee Lamb's favor. More targets are going to go his way. Michael Gallup and Tolbert. Look, these are guys that I think can supplement for you. Gallup, I think you're getting late enough in drafts. And then Dalton Schultz, my favorite mid-round tight end there, where I think that's the last guy you can get who's a good return. He's closer to the top tier than the bottom tier, and he's coming at a good discount. The Giants, oh boy. The Giants are going to rue the day they didn't take Malik Willis, not once, but twice in the second round. I'm calling it right now. I don't believe in Daniel Jones. I just don't. Saquon Barkley looks good in camp. That's for sure. But the question is, can he hold up? I think in that second round, you're getting a discount enough on Saquon Barkley to look at it. And if he should slip to the third round, which probably is not going to happen, maybe in some 10-team drafts, you definitely snag him there. You take a shot. He could be a league winner, and you don't have to pay that top 5 freight for him anymore. Kenny Golladay is dust. Don't even bother. Forget it. It's over. Kadarius Toney could be great, but the problem is small sample size. Problem is tons of injuries for this guy too. Sterling Shepard is back and playing, but he's had a lot of injuries as well. This is just an offense I'm staying away from. The Eagles offense is one I'm going to invest in very selectively, but I want to invest in it, especially in A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown, one of the most economical wide receivers you can get out there. That's what he did in Tennessee. That's what he's going to have to do with Philadelphia again. And with the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is going to be a top 8 quarterback again this year, probably because of that rushing equity that he brings. They're going to throw the ball a little bit more. You've seen that already, that they're opening up the offense. That's great because you have A.J. Brown who can really add to those passing totals. You have Devontae Smith in there as a 2. I think that's a much better cast for him than as a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. He's more of a 2 in terms of size and profile and what he can do. Dallas Goedert still investable. I'm staying away from Miles Sanders. Give me all the Kenneth Gainwell instead. And then with the Washington Commanders, you keep telling me Carson Wentz is a big upgrade from Heineke. He's an upgrade. I just don't know how big of an upgrade. All of a sudden, it's a really weird situation between Antonio Gibson, who was the RB1, and there's been nobody who's fallen off more in ADP in the last few weeks than this guy. He's catching punts now. I don't know. Nobody knows what's going on. Brian Robinson had a really nice year in Alabama. 3 down back there. It was a great offense, but maybe this is the way they want to pivot. I don't know. It's getting weird. Robinson is that guy for me that I think you want to pivot to. Again, cheaper, but who knows? We'll talk to Pat Fitzmaurice more this hour about Antonio Gibson. Terry McLaurin still investable. Jahan Dotson, nice polished wide receiver. It might take him a little bit of a long time to kind of get acclimated, though, and Carson Wentz, we'll see. Logan Thomas is an interesting in a deeper league situation if you're going to take punts at tight end, because when Carson Wentz is at his best, it's throwing the ball to the tight end. So McLaurin's a guy I just can't get excited about. I know he'll be fine, but just lacks the upside in this Washington offense. So really, it's kind of Eagles and Cowboys here in the East, and that's at least half of the teams here that we're going to talk about this segment. Matt, your thoughts on the division that was quite underwhelming the last few years, but in fantasy terms, there's definitely some things to cherry pick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'll work it backwards, just the things that popped out at me. I agree with you with Washington and the tight end option. I also do like Dotson as well. And if you want to take a flyer on a quarterback, I think people wouldn't hate you for a guy like Wentz very, very late. And I think Robinson is going to be the darling. And I have my notes here. And I'm just looking for Philadelphia. I like what you said about Brown. I like the efficiency, the economical receiver, and I think that he'll be there. You know, he's not a sexy name, although he does run you the risk of people going, oh, I know that name, click. But at the same time, depending on where he sits on the draft board at the time of your pick, he might be interesting. Moving to the Giants, I think I believe in Barkley. I really do. I love that the bloom is off the rose, and I think that if he's sitting there for me at an opportunity where maybe I've gone wide receiver heavy and I still want to get a name brand back, a guy like Barkley is there for me. And last but not least with Dallas, Lamb is obvious. I think Tolbert's going to be fun. I really do. I think he's going to be that check down guy that may give you some things here and there. All right, so that's the NFC East. Now let's move to the North. What do you got?
Well, we'll start with Chicago because it won't take that long. Justin Fields did have some, scoring drives yesterday. That's good. Look, Justin Fields in Superflex leagues is definitely somebody that you should be aware of and should be investing in because there is that, again, rushing upside. He's not going to cost you what Hurts costs. He's not going to cost you what Lance costs, but he might be able to give you a lot of fantasy total points, and that's important. It might not always look good doing it, but look, this is a work in progress in Chicago. Montgomery, I'm staying away from him. Instead, I'm going to take Khalil Herbert later in drafts with one of my last picks because to me, he was the better running back last year. And again, I'm looking at the investment I have to make in these guys. I think Herbert not only could share carries, but could overtake him at some point in the season. Darnell Mooney's the only other investable wide receiver here. You stay away from St. Brown and Pringle. Komet I like as well. He's one of my favorite late punt tight end guys. In Detroit's got a lot more to offer than you realize. Jared Goff is a third quarterback in Superflex. I'm okay with. DeAndre Swift is the name. This is the guy that I think can move up and possibly finish as a top 5 back. He's going to catch the football. Detroit's going to run the football. We talked a lot about the Lions last week. I think Swift is one of these guys that could really have a huge breakout this year and kind of take that next step forward. And this time next year, we're talking about him as a first round pick. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that St. Brown brother, I will take an investment in. I know some people want to say, well, he only got all those targets because nobody else was around. Well, guess what? He caught all those targets and it worked. So why are we going away from those things? Shark is there, but I want Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. When Jameson Williams comes back healthy, he could be a league winner. Hawkinson, again, fine mid-range tight end. Just don't overpay for him. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers is not what he used to be in terms of prolific productivity. Don't confuse the fact. He is barely a QB1, if at all. I'd rather have Cousins. I'd rather have Carr. Aaron Jones, we already talked about it. Rather pivot to A.J. Dillon later. Lazard's going to get some targets. Romeo Doubs, watch him. If this preseason continues over, you might get a lot more out of him than you realize with your last pick. Then that's Minnesota, the team I'm excited about. Kirk Cousins. Last year had a great season. Finally got off to a good September. 2 years in a row, terrible Septembers. Some reason he took him till October to turn it on. I don't know if he likes Halloween or pumpkin spice lattes. I don't know. All I know is that Kirk Cousins finally put it all together last year, and it was really good. Now you got a head coach who really wants to push the football. That's great news for Justin Jefferson. I think Osborne's a good late pick. We talked about the bust potential of Thielen. Irv Smith, another late tight end. Irv Smith, Cole Kmet, take a couple shots, see which one works out. I think Justin Jefferson could be the 1-1, and I think Dalvin Cook is set up for another really good season. So your thoughts on the NFC North, Matt Stryker?
Well, when you look at it overall, you have to find the best because otherwise you're just settling. And if you're going to find yourself in drafts where people are going receiver heavy, then obviously I would look at Mooney in Chicago and I would look at Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit. I'm with you on that. And if you want to wait and he's still there because he is inflated, I would also love to have Swift in that conversation. If I went wide receiver heavy and a guy like Swift a little later on, I'd be feeling good, Joe.
Yeah, look, right now you can get Swift at the turn every time if you want him. You could take Devontae Adams and DeAndre Swift. You could take Diggs and Swift. Some combination of that, it makes a lot of sense. And look, he might end up surpassing a guy like Joe Mixon, who looks a lot safer theoretically in that Bengals offense. But again, maybe he gets used less than Swift. We'll come back with more NFC previews right after this.
Might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, Expert projections and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
They don't kick field goals. So now, like, a stupid number like 32 or something should be used because it ain't a multiple of 3 and all these other things that go into making the numbers. Like,
all right,
they ain't ever going to kick a field goal, so 35 and a half is not an option or something. Like, you got to move it quicker. People will figure it out. The rhombuses and the parallelograms will figure it out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Pro Football Doc has found its new home right here with Sports Injury Central. And with that comes our expansion into other sports. Sports Injury Central will give you nonstop exclusive injury analysis from experienced team doctors from all 3 major sports. Doctors with resumes that include teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Texas Rangers, and the LA Chargers. So gain a fantasy DFS and betting edge right now for free at sicscore.com.
Maurice Allen, 2015-2016 European Long Drive Tour champion, 2017 world number 1. Me personally, I keep my game face on me all the time. Especially coming out of the bunker, leaving the range, or even leaving the course. What's your story?
Your heart's racing. The clock's running out. It all comes down to this. We're talking pregame. 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 Get locked in with Game Time Decisions. Your hosts, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, will get you ready for game time. Everything you need to know before a game goes off the board, with the bet slips to back it up. Make your best bet with live odds updates, late breaking news, up-to-the-minute injury reports, and real-time analytics from inside the sports books. All the odds, all the action, from sports wagering insiders and industry pros like Donnie Rightside, Cam Lou, Cousin Sal, the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and more. Get the winning edge every weekday afternoon from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 Pacific. It's Game Time Decisions. Only on Sports Grid.
Break.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia sitting down, breaking down the NFC. And Joe is the perfect guy, not only because he's the mind behind the Black Book series, but also he's the only guy that could ever answer the riddle for me that if you walk south long enough, you will eventually be going north. But if you walk west, you will never be going east. I can't understand it, but the NFC South and the West is where we're going. Joe, do with that what you will.
Namaste, Matt Stryker. That was very deep. Thanks for the moment of zen here on the football show. Very fun. Yes, we have a little bit more time in this one. So we have 50 guys to get through now in about 12 minutes. So we're going to try to do our best to fly through. And we don't have to spend too much time on the Atlanta Falcons now, do we? Terrible offensive line, Marcus Mariota playing quarterback for however long that's going to be before Desmond Ridder takes over at some point in the season. You know what's going to happen. Mariota never plays a full season anyway. And behind that offensive line, he's going to, just ask Matt Ryan how that worked out last year. Guys were literally stepping on Matt Ryan's hands while he laid nearly lifeless on his back at times last year. It was brutal. So good luck, Marcus. Hopefully that all works out for you. But he got that signing bonus when he was top pick. So you got that going for you. All right, Cordell Patterson is running back. He's going to play more wide receiver this year. Check your leagues to see what he is. Is he a running back? Is he a wide receiver? Is he both? So make sure you check your leagues to figure that out. I'm not saying Patterson can't be useful, but I'm not trying to live in the past there. It's unfortunate they don't have Calvin Ridley. But you do have Drake London, who I think can still be a big force in PPR leagues. I don't know how many touchdowns he's going to catch, but in terms of volume, it's going to him. He's a very talented wide receiver. The trouble is who's throwing him the football. That's the trouble. How much time does he have to throw the football? And Drake London's dealing with a little bit of a knee issue right now. So it's a lot of negatives, but I love Drake London in dynasty leagues. Then you have Edwards and Zacchaeus. Kyle Pitts, generational talent. Kyle Pitts is going to catch more than one touchdown like he did last year. Kyle Pitts is probably your best return outside of Dalton Schultz, who's a little cheaper. If you don't want to go early, big elite tight end with Kelsey or Andrews or even Kittle, then Pitts to me is that guy. Pitts is ahead of Kittle, in my opinion. He's much closer and could potentially still finish as tight end 1 overall. There's that range of outcomes, but I think it's a little tougher in this offense that I just don't think it's going to be any good. Speaking of teams that aren't going to be any good, how about the Carolina Panthers? Baker Mayfield. Yay, he's the quarterback of the Panthers. Let's all get really excited about that. Christian McCaffrey's back. I know everybody's excited about that. Everybody wants to anoint him again as a top 2 overall pick. I can't get there. I refuse to get there. I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but I'm used to being unpopular. Matt always tells me I am, and he's usually right. But McCaffrey, I just don't get it. If you're giving me the entire board, why am I investing in a player that's played 10 games in 2 years, who already had a body frame that everybody was super concerned that workload was going to be an issue? Then he had the monstrous workload for 2 years, and then he's fallen apart afterwards. I'm not saying he's injury prone. I'm just saying, why do I have to take that risk at 1, at 2? Give me Jonathan Taylor. Give me Justin Jefferson. Give me Derrick Henry. I'll take all those guys. Give me 6'4", 240 Derrick Henry over 5'11" Christian McCaffrey. I'll take my chances that way. I know he could be the best player in fantasy, but at the 5 or 6 spot, maybe in the first round, not at 1. DJ Moore, look, steady as she goes. 4 touchdowns, 1,200 yards. Is it going to get better this year? I don't know. Show me the wide receiver that Baker Mayfield made special, and I'll tell you, but I can't see it. The rest of this offense, I want nothing to do with. New Orleans, Jameis Winston, round 2. Let's see if he can stay healthy. He's got better cast around for receivers. Last year was dreadful. This year, you get Michael Thomas back. You draft Chris Olave, who I absolutely love. I think this guy is so NFL ready. It's not even funny, man. This guy is sharp. Jarvis Landry, I think, is a little long in the tooth. Yeah, he's going to work in the slot a little bit, but I wouldn't be running out to get a lot of Jarvis Landry shares. I think the best is behind him. I'd rather have Olave instead. Kamara doesn't look like he's getting suspended, so I guess we're okay with Alvin Kamara now. It feels like that. Still a little bit of an unknown. Don't put it past the NFL to surprise you. And then, of course, there's Tampa. This is why everybody wants Tampa, thinks Tampa's going to go to the Super Bowl in the wagering market, because look at who they're competing against. They're going to play 6 games against those other jabroni teams, and that's going to be probably 5 or 6 wins right there. Tom Brady, he played yesterday. It's fine. Leonard Fournette, he's another year older. He was overweight in camp. Nobody cares. It's fine. Mike Evans, still going to get his 1,000+ yards every year and get his touchdowns. He's fine. Chris Godwin, looks like he's more fine than we realize. So that's good. Then you bring in Julio Jones. You got Russell Gage. You got 2 other guys. You got a lot of options to fill the shoes of the vacant Antonio Brown. When Antonio Brown left, that hurt this team. Cameron Brate, I don't really see too much for him, but I will say this. Julio Jones could fill more of the Gronk role in this offense, which is the big target in the red zone, which is also the guy who can go down the seam, potentially that bigger body, and be a huge matchup problem for safeties. So keep in mind and watch carefully how Julio Jones gets used early on. He might be more productive than people realize because he doesn't have to be the 1 or the 2. He can just kind of be what Gronk was last year, that big-bodied matchup guy to get you touchdowns and get you more than you realize. And he is also very cheap in drafts. The NFC South, Matt Stryker, what appeals or doesn't to you?
Well, starting from the back and moving forward with Tampa, I do think that you lay out a nice point for some viable receiving options that people can pick up rather cheap and in late rounds. You don't want to take too much draft capital and be worried about it. So I think that's a great way, especially with people that are drafting wide receiver heavy early. Staying with the wide receiver theme, I think in New Orleans, I'm with you on Olave. You actually put me onto him. Shocking. But I think that Thomas could be worth something here. I think people forget this is an elite receiver at one point and can be at least close to that again, depending on how the quarterback situation presents itself. For Carolina, I'm with you. I talked to you a little bit about a mock draft that I done off the air, and Robbie Anderson came up several times. Let's see if maybe he can become viable. If not, it's droppable. And last but not least, when you look at Atlanta, I think that only London and Pitts are the names to be interested in over there. So with that said, now let's move on to the NFC West, the Wild Wild West. Who do we like? Why?
Yeah, it's going to be a Wild West striker. He's going to have the Arizona Cardinals there with Kyler Murray back again. Now, look, I know Murray last year missed some time, and 2 years ago, he didn't miss time, but he was injured. Keep this in mind. He's a smaller quarterback. He takes certain shots. I mean, it's going to affect him. It's just the NFL. This is how it is. This is why people said hey, the smaller frame quarterback might be a problem in this league because of the gargantuan, fast, strong people hitting him. Yeah, it can be. So there's a little bit of a danger with Kyler Murray in single quarterback leagues and in superflex leagues even more, because quarterbacks got to stay healthy in the superflex leagues. Otherwise, you're looking at the waiver wire and it is thin. James Conner, like, enormous amount of touchdowns last year. Can he repeat it? Probably not, but can he get close to it? Probably. You've also got some other guys working in that backfield, so pay attention to that because Connor's injury history is certainly long also. DeAndre Hopkins is going to miss the first 6 weeks of the season. You're just not getting enough of an injury discount, or excuse me, a discount on him, not even injury. But speaking of injuries, he was hurt last year. So he's going to come back and play healthy even when he does. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. If you're getting him dirt cheap and he lasts, that's fine, but he's still going too early for my taste. I just can't get it. To me, he's like a wide receiver 50. He's being drafted more like 40 something. Can't get there. Marquis Brown, everyone's really excited about this except me, because I'm old enough to remember watching Marquis Brown play for the Ravens and drop balls and run bad routes. Rondell Moore is there. Certainly a lot of upside. That's a guy to circle. He's a late sleeper kind of guy. The question remains, though, when Hopkins comes back, who drops off? Is it Brown? Is it Moore? None of us know. Maybe it's Zach Ertz, who could probably benefit early from Hopkins being out. But once again, what the unknown is could potentially hurt us. With the Rams, what could potentially hurt them is Matt Stafford's elbow. If his elbow's okay, it's wheels up here. Cam Akers last year came back early. Took, I think, some negative publicity for it, believe it or not. And I think he doesn't quite deserve it. It's a good offense. I think Akers is capped a certain amount because they are going to be very throw heavy. Cooper Kupp, really difficult to, I would say, repeat historic seasons. That's the only thing I'm going to say. And he was historically good last year. I mean, let's be honest. He was historically great last year. So he's still a top 3 wide receiver. He's the third one on my board after Jefferson, after Chase. Allen Robinson, probably one of the most divisive assets in all of fantasy football. There's some analysts who love this rebound, put him with the Rams and Stafford. Other people hate it because they think last year was the indicator of he's just done, and he was just a volume guy to begin with anyway. So he's a very divisive guy. Maybe we'll get Pat Fitzmaurice's take on that later. Van Jefferson dealing with an injury. Higbee is non-existent. Then we get to Seattle. Well, we have some clarity here. Going into the weekend when we made the graphic, maybe it was Drew Lock. It's not. It's Geno Smith now. I don't know if that's good, but it's better. Then we have Rashad Penny, who was great last year, won people leagues. He's got 3 years of not playing football pretty much. Ken Walker was drafted, an intriguing prospect, more of a dynasty asset than redraft, but still could give us some productivity this year at some point in time. DK Metcalf, Lockett, these are guys I'm fading away from because, again, the unknown is just not good enough, nor is the discount. And then San Francisco, Trey Lance has the potential to finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback. He just does. Is he going to reach that? I don't know, but the potential's there. Eli Mitchell, I'm running away from. Give me A.J. Dillon. Give me Travis Etienne. I can't believe he's even in the same conversation as those guys in ADP. Debo Samuel is going to regress a little bit because of the rushing quarterback. Same thing with Eli Mitchell. Ayuk is fascinating. Cheaper part of this offense. The deep ball is now a thing in this offense where it wasn't with Garoppolo. It is with Lance. That benefits Ayuk. And then George Kittle, once again, steady guy. Sometimes we wonder, how good he really is in fantasy as opposed to real NFL. But Matt, what sticks out to you when you're looking at this NFC West picture?
I love when we do this. All right. So for the 49ers, for me, Kittle, Ayuk. That would be there. For Seattle, it's going to be tough to land on anything. Maybe Noah Fant, just because I'm not so certain how those quarterbacks are going to be able. I think Lockett and Metcalf could be viable, but not as viable as they've been in the past. You don't need me to tell you that. With the Rams, my gosh, take your pick. I'm actually really intrigued to see what Robinson is going to be here, and I will draft him if he's available for me, just so I can have my toe in that pool. And last but not least, with Arizona, I like Connor, and I do like Moore, and I like Ertz, especially Ertz, because when we're talking about tight end, talking about that just one touchdown makes you a tight end one, and so on and so forth. Ertz is a really, really nice option, Joe.
Yeah, and you saw Ertz, ironically, something doesn't really happen when a guy gets traded, all of a sudden becomes part of the offense right away. He did last year. When we come back, Pat Fitzmaurice from Fantasy Pros is going to join us. Let's talk about more of these guys and break them down right here on FST.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
play less games.
The early
If you take a look at
line.
the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten, they're going to play less.
Rodgers
The
and
morning
Russell Wilson.
after.
We saw movement in the marketplace like
Fantasy sports
the Cleveland
today.
Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to coast.
That's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
kind of
decisions.
bizarre when you consider everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game live all
I like
access.
I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy can win the game, take a 4.5.
In-game live. Prime time.
The PGA champion.
In-game live. Overtime.
done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
It is all happening, boys. Dubsy Wednesdays, training day. We're talking about LB pool holes. All rise for Aaron Judge. All rise for Dubsy. This is what we're doing in the golf betting, baby. What an announcement this morning. The PGA Tour have returned serve and say, hey, don't you sleep on us. We still got plenty of dollars up for grabs. Notably, we've now got 20 events on the PGA Tour schedule where the big names are going to show up.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart or TuneIn, or catch us on Sirius XM Sports Grid Channel 159.
All right, welcome back in Fantasy Sports Today, FST. It is time for the Fantasy Roundtable, and do we have a treat for you? Royalty sits at our table, the one and only Pat Fitzmaurice. Sir, welcome. It is an honor to have you here. Joe Pisapia says that you're arguably the nicest guy in the industry. Is that true, or can I find a way to raise your ire?
No, but I appreciate Joe for fibbing on that one. Matt, thank you for the nice introduction. Very great to be on with you and Joe. And yeah, Joe, the check's in the mail for that compliment. So
you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So, we know that your time is valuable, so thank you so much for taking some of your time to join us here. Let's talk, man. A.J. Dillon. Joe and I have been talking about it a little bit, but now we save it for you. Really expand on this player. How do you lean?
Yeah, I know Joe is a mutual A.J. Dillon admirer, so I'm very much in the pro camp for this year. I think it's just a really nice setup for him with Devontae Adams being gone. The Packers should run the ball at a higher rate this year, and Aaron Rodgers is likely to target his receivers at a higher rate. And Aaron Jones is going to be the primary pass catching back. But Dillon was, for a guy who didn't really catch any balls at Boston College, was pretty efficient in that regard, at least showed that can be another tool in his toolkit. But the main tool is those quads. He is going to be a between the tackles force for the Packers. And I think they're going to be in a position to run the ball quite often this year just because their defense is stacked. I mean, this is probably the best the Packers defense has looked going into a season since Reggie White and Leroy Butler were running around for the green and gold. So I think it all sets up pretty well for Dillon. And there was kind of a subtle shift in workload last year. Over the last 8 games that Dillon and Aaron Jones played together in the regular season, Dillon averaged 13.7 carries a game and Jones only 10.2. And Dillon was also getting more of the goal line work. So I think he's going to be kind of the primary ball carrier on early downs for the Packers this year.
Pat, I'm so glad you brought up the defense because once again, people don't talk about the offensive line enough. They don't talk about defense enough and how these things actually impact fantasy. Everyone's like, oh, I know this guy. He's a running back for the Packers. I'm going to take Aaron Jones. But you're right. It does matter. If you are going to be in tight games and you are leading in games and you can rely on that defense, why aren't you running the football more and doing that stuff? Which, again, another notch potentially for A.J. Dillon. But I want to ask you this. When we talk about return on investment, who do you think has a better chance to return that investment? A.J. Dillon at his current ADP or the second round value you have to put on a pick for Aaron Jones?
Yeah, Dillon, I think. And I don't think Jones is a terrible buy as a second round, mid to late second round value, but I think Dillon is probably a little bit better of an investment in the, 5th or 6th?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. So it's just nice, like I said earlier, when smart people all get together and say the same things. That's when you start making little notes in your books. Let's talk about another player I spoke about earlier as a breakout in that same segment from Dillon. Let's talk about Rashad Bateman. Bring him back too, because we kind of touched on Bateman's upside, but again, kind of an unknown. Like Travis Etienne, it was more of an incomplete, if not non-existent, almost rookie season for Rashad Bateman. But there were glimpses there, at least for Rashad Bateman, where you kind of saw it. The question is, can you see it now with Lamar Jackson? Do you see the path for this guy going past? You see the numbers here projected for him: 77 receptions, 931 yards, 6 TDs. Is this a baseline or is this the ceiling for Rashad Bateman?
I'd probably bet the over with a season of good health, which he didn't really have. You mentioned it, Joe, that he didn't really fire his rookie year. And part of that was he was dealing with a core injury. I think it was a hernia that kind of took him out of action for a while. And I don't think he was full go when he came back. But yeah, so you talked about defenses, and the Ravens are probably going to be in a situation like the Packers where their defense is going to be back after an injury-riddled year last year. So maybe they go back to being the team where, passing game assets with Lamar Jackson, maybe not the guys you generally want to chase, but their targets are going to be so polarized, I think, with Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman getting the vast majority. And the Ravens spoke volumes to us on draft night when they traded Marquis Brown and then didn't draft a wide receiver on any of the 3 days of the draft. Did not take one. So the other receivers behind Bateman are like James Prochet, Tylan Wallace, Devin Duvernay, completely unaccomplished guys. I think they see Bateman as an alpha, and he was terrific at the University of Minnesota. Just a guy who I thought had no real weaknesses in his game coming out of Minnesota, like good route runner, terrific after the catch, great set of hands, lined up inside and outside when he was there. So I think he could be a high volume guy. And even though the Ravens are going to run at a high rate this year, I think Bateman could see like 140, maybe even 150 targets.
Pat, Joe and I often talk about draft strategy, and one thing that always comes up is people always argue, where do you take the quarterback? Where do you take the quarterback? Mm-hmm. How should managers approach a quarterback like Trey Lance? How do you lean on him this year?
Oh, I like him a lot, and he's a guy you can typically get after the first 9 or 10 quarterbacks are off the board. I just love the running potential here, Matt. Like we saw him in 2 starts last year run 24 times, 12 carries a game, and he was a fantastic runner. He had a season at North Dakota State where he ran for 1,100 yards, and in college, sacks count against your rushing yardage. And I think he had like 16 or 14 touchdown runs that year too. So like he's maybe not quite a Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson level runner, but he is just a small notch below. And it wouldn't surprise me if he, was right with those guys in rushing yardage. And yeah, like there's more passing upside here than I think Hurts and Jackson have. Like the 49ers would not have dealt the draft capital they did to move up and get this guy if they didn't think he could be an above average NFL passer. And it's certainly going to help that he's got George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk to throw to, and that he's running the Kyle Shanahan playbook. But certainly in his first extended exposure to NFL defenses, there will be times when he's confused by what he sees and maybe doesn't look that great. But hey, a confused, mobile young quarterback is just going to tuck the ball away and run quite often, and not the worst thing for fantasy.
Yeah, as a confused young analyst, sometimes I would just tuck the ball and run around. It's just what we do sometimes. When it comes to Lance, you mentioned that you could probably go around the 10th quarterback off the board. Are you somebody that wants to draft an insurance policy quarterback in those formats? Like, do you want a Carr or a Cousins or a Stafford to just have a little bit of insurance? And in Superflex, are you comfortable with Lance as your one, or is that the same kind of thing where if you're going to take Lance as your one, you better back it up right away just in case there is a fallout or he does struggle a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I would be comfortable with Lance as my one in Superflex. He might be the sort of guy where I lean maybe a little toward taking a backup quarterback, as long as it's, I don't know, 18-man rosters or bigger. 16, you start to get a little squeezed a bit, and I'm more inclined to just play the waiver wire. But I don't know. I feel like the 49ers have kind of passed the point of no return here. I wouldn't be surprised if they release Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I don't think the specter of Jimmy Garoppolo should worry potential Trey Lance investors. I think they're kind of all in on Lance this year. So I'm pretty confident just rolling with him as my one guy. I don't know. Maybe if the rosters are deep, I'd look for a backup, but for the most part, I'm pretty good to just roll with Lance.
I think the specter of Jimmy Garoppolo is coming to Netflix this fall. I'm not sure when. I think October. We have to keep an eye out for that. All right, let's talk about tight end, and let's talk about Kyle Pitts. Now, there's those guys who go really early. Kelsey, Andrews, typically end of the first through the second round, sometime in that range. And then there's Kyle Pitts, who is going more in the third, fourth round. And I know a lot of our colleagues think that he could be the number one tight end overall. Is that realistic, though, considering where the Falcons are at this juncture with their quarterback, with their offense, with that offensive line? I know the one touchdown is an outlier. I get all that. But is there enough here in this offense to make Kyle Pitts the best tight end in fantasy this year?
Yeah, I know the offense is kind of gross, Joe, and maybe it's unrealistic to expect a touchdown jump from like 1 to 10. But I think we could certainly see it going from 1 to 6, 7, 8, 9. And we should remember that Marcus Mariota fueled, I think, 2 top 5 seasons for Delaney Walker back in the day at tight end. So maybe he's not the most like detrimental quarterback to have for Pitts this year. And we've seen that like rookie wide receivers who come in and have 1,000-yard season, generally they are terrific bets the rest of their career. Like, they go on to do big things. And boy, for Pitts to come in as a tight end and do it in year one, the first tight end to go over 1,000 yards since Mike Ditka in 1961, 50 years. That's pretty special. And like, I'm hoping with the arrival of Drake London that we're not going to see Pitts covered by other teams' top cornerbacks as much as we saw last year. Like, they'd play Carolina and he'd be locked up with like J.C. Jackson. So maybe if he's getting some better matchups, maybe they line him up more in line this year. So try to get him those matchups against linebackers and safeties. If they use him a little more creatively, and I don't know if Arthur Smith is the most creative play caller in the world, but it's possible we could see like just a 1,300-yard season. The sky is the limit for this dude, Joe. I mean, he is so athletic and such a unicorn that I've been debating whether to move him ahead of Mark Andrews in recent days. Like, he's on an auto pick for me pretty much. If I can get him in the third round, I'm almost thinking maybe he should be a second round value.
Wow. Huh. Look at that. That's nice. I like that, man. We'll play that back on social media a lot, and Joe will handle all the comments. Speaking of comments, Pat, if I go to Washington, am I going there to draft a special teams player? Like, what is going on with Antonio Gibson and how should approach this?
Yeah, this one is tough, Matt. And like, I'm maybe gonna go down with this ship here, go down with the Titanic on Antonio Gibson, but a guy who is as big and as fast as Jonathan Taylor, who scored double-digit touchdowns in his first 2 years in the league, who has ranked inside running back 1 territory the last 2 years, and who played with a cracked shin bone last year. Like, I know the depth chart stuff looks gross. I know that Ron Rivera has not given us real encouraging signals about his usage this year with the way Brian Robinson has played, with Gibson playing on kickoffs. But I still feel like it would be just so detrimental for them to not give him 10 to 12 carries a game. I think even in a committee, he's going to get that, which makes him at least flex worthy. And now that he is falling to like the running back 25 to 30 territory in drafts, like I almost think he's become like a sleeper. He's gone from a guy who everyone pegged as overvalued early in draft season to like a sleeper now, which is kind of a weird transformation. But I'm still pretty interested, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I think he's the guy who's probably changed the most, Pat, in terms of where we started in June with rankings and where we are now. And maybe it's too far. Maybe you're right. Real quick, I know you only got a few seconds left. Give me 10 seconds of why Mike Evans isn't as safe as everybody else thinks.
First 6 years in the league, over 9 targets a game. Last 2 years, he has averaged just under 7 targets a game. And now there's more target competition with Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, Julio Jones. And by the way, the middle of the Bucs offensive line has been gutted. Evans' average depth of targets last year, 13 yards. You need time to deliver balls deep to Evans. And I don't know if Brady's going to have it.
He's Pat Fitzmaurice. You can catch him on with me on Fantasy Pros. Follow him on Twitter at @Fitz_FF. Pat, always a pleasure having you and talking fantasy football. We'll be right back to close things out right here on Sports Grid.
Maurice Allen, 2015-2016 European Long Drive Tour champion, 2017 world number 1. Me personally, I keep my game face on me all the time. Especially coming out of the bunker, leaving the range, or even leaving the course. What's your story?
Pro Football Doc has found its new home right here with Sports Injury Central. And with that comes our expansion into other sports. Sports Injury Central will give you nonstop exclusive injury analysis from experienced team doctors from all 3 major sports. Doctors with resumes that include teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Texas Rangers, and the LA Chargers. So gain a fantasy, DFS, and betting edge right now for free at SICScore.com.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart, or TuneIn, or catch us on Sirius XM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
In the landscape of college sports, some things remain the same.
College football today.
Of Alabama in winning SEC championship.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Fantasy sports today.
You have to understand that.
Can they survive those first 4 games? They can go 2-2.
Pro football today.
This franchise, they are comical. Now, I'm not making light of the injuries. This is a brutal rash.
In-game live all access.
You can take the money line.
And the sports book, if you shop around, you can get it at 133. But that's my best bet on the night, Joe. So that's the one I'm going big.
In-game live, prime time.
I'm a bit nostalgic. I'm going with an international, Jason Day and Sergio Garcia.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination?
get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Break.
All right, wrapping it up here. And I'm positive you are having fun. This is FST Fantasy Sports Today. I want to thank producer Joe for doing a great job. And of course, I've been Matt Stryker, and now it's time to turn it over to Joseph, Joe Pizzapia. He's the man who takes us out of this final segment. Let me stop before we get sued. 3 and out, Joe. Go.
It's really hard to dance in this small 2-box. I need more space. Anyway, these are the things to look forward to this week. Preseason football is wrapping up. Yeah, only 3 weeks this year. I know it's a weird adjustment. It's what we all wanted, but now that it's here, it's weird. So keep an eye on these things. Final cuts. That's happening on Tuesday. Who doesn't make rosters, who gets signed and picked up by other rosters. That's going to impact some fantasy things, especially in the running back market. Keep a close eye on some of those players. Who knows? Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo gets cut too, ends up with Seattle. Just saying, it's very possible. The depth chart risers too. After those cuts happen, who are the guys moving up the depth charts? And then who are the guys moving in the opposite direction too? The guys falling off. So great stuff there from Pat about Antonio Gibson. Who knows where he's going to land on that depth chart at the end of all of this, but we're getting closer to real football, and that's what it's all about. And I'm very excited. I know Matt is too, and we're going to be here every Sunday morning breaking it down for you, 8 a.m. Eastern. Be there, be ready, get up early on the West Coast, get your second cup of coffee if you need to make it through all 2 hours, but we're going to get you locked and loaded for DFS for season long. We're going to have guests on all year too. I think that's a new thing. Last year we didn't do. This year I want to do more of it. Get some other great fantasy minds talking to us about what's going on in the fantasy world. But right now it's draft time. That's what you're doing. So go get your fantasy football black book over on Amazon. Go check that out. Go check out all the work at Fantasy Bros. Go subscribe here to our YouTube channel at Sports Grid too, so you know what's going on. And don't forget to follow us on the Twitter machine and all social media too at Sports Grid TV, because that's an important place to be, because that's where it all goes down for your fantasies, for your wagering, for everything. It's been fun as always. I want to thank our crew, and that'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Matt Stryker, I'm Joe Pizzapia. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Good luck in your drafts, and we'll be back next week to do it all again.
Break.